Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to embedded systems. And this is the subject that we are handling in the semester, embedded systems. All of you, welcome to embedded systems. And many of you know what embedded system is. I don't think you still need introduction to embedded systems. Otherwise, definition of embedded system. Many of you, because many of you have done some projects in the embedded systems, so you don't need to define embedded systems, right? You have some experience of embedded systems. In your third year, you have done some projects by using Arduino or some other microcontrollers, right? So that is nothing but embedded system. It is not different from that. Right? In today's class, we will see some introduction to the course. What are the different topics that we will be learning in this subject, and so on, so on. And textbooks also, material, and labs too. After looking at the course structure, we will start with the actual topic, right? Let me share the syllabus copy. This is the syllabus for the subject embedded systems. And as usual, it has 5 units. The main goal of this course is to understand embedded systems and also microcontrollers. And see, this is the unit 1. In unit 1, we talk about the introduction. What is the unit 1 itself is introduction to embedded systems. Introduction to embedded systems. In this unit 1, we will talk about the very fundamentals of embedded system, like host and target concept. Host and target concept. Host means generally embedded systems are built with microcontrollers. And every microcontroller or embedded system delivers certain functionality, some functionality, and that functionality happens through programming. Means before you put that embedded system into action, you should store some program in the microcontroller. When you run that program in the microcontroller, then that microcontroller delivers that functionality, right? That's how embedded systems function. Now the question is how to write programs and put those programs in the microcontroller. It is not that easy because microcontrollers are not given. Microcontrollers, they don't come with keyboards and mouse and so on, so on, input devices. Now the question is how to write the program into the microcontroller, right? For that thing, we take the help of our computer. Okay, we take the help of our desktop computer or laptop computer. In the desktop computer or laptop computer, we write the program in some softwares called editors. There we type the program, generally in high level language program, and by using other softwares called interpreters or compilers, we convert that program into machine level language program, and after converting that, we upload that program into the embedded microcontroller. Okay, microcontroller. That's what we do. Once the program gets into the microcontroller, then we can run it anywhere. Once the program is loaded into the microcontroller, then we don't need any computer, host computer. Okay, that is the idea of host and target concepts. Host is needed because we cannot directly write the program in the microcontroller. So we take the help of another computer, we take the help of a computer, and we write the program in high level language, we convert that into low level language, and we upload that program into the microcontroller. And once it is done, you can carry the microcontroller anywhere. It is portable device, and you can get that functionality. That is the idea of host and target devices. Next, embedded applications. Embedded applications. Today, whatever electronic gadget that you will see, somewhere or the other, you will have this embedded. I'm not saying the whole gadget is embedded. A part of it is embedded. Okay, and features of embedded systems. Features means they are small in size, low power consumption. We look at the characteristics. Features are nothing but the characteristics of embedded system. Means if you are saying something as embedded system, then what are the criteria it should satisfy? What are the characteristics it should contain so that it becomes an embedded system? That's what features of embedded systems. Architecture means embedded system is not just a microcontroller. Embedded system is not bare microcontroller. Microcontroller plus other peripherals. Microcontroller plus other necessary peripherals. These all together called embedded system. Now, how they are architectured means how they are connected, and so on, so on. That is what is the architecture. That is the architecture. Okay, architecture considerations. Next, and we have this other things called RAM, timers. RAM is, we all know, read-only memory, random access memory. Read-only memory is permanent memory in certain way. RAM is temporary memory. The data which is stored in RAM lasts only for the duration of the power supply. Okay, if you take away the power supply from this RAM memory, the data stored in the RAM will be destroyed. Okay, whereas RAM, if you store some data into the RAM memory, that lasts forever. But okay, even after you take away the power from the RAM memory, nothing will happen to the data present in the RAM even after power is being removed from this device. Okay, data which is stored in the RAM will remain intact irrespective of the power. That is the RAM. And generally we use temporary data, that is intermediate data, that is generated in execution of the program, that is stored in RAM, whereas the program itself is stored in the RAM. And timers, we talk about timers. Timers are nothing but counting devices, and they count time like 1 second, 2 seconds, or milliseconds, or microseconds. And we need different time units like seconds, milliseconds, microseconds, okay, in different applications. So depending on the requirement, we make timers of different varieties, of various varieties. Next, data and address bus concept. What is data bus and address bus? There are bus literally means uh, something that transports something from one place to another place, like college bus. College bus transports or carry us from our homes to college and back to home, right? That's what bus literally means. Now, what about bus in electronics? In microprocessor, okay, different things, data is stored in different places, like ram and so on so on. We have to carry the data from that place to the processor or control in it and so on so on, right? That can be done through wires. Bus is nothing but wires, okay? And in some architectures, the same wires carry both address data and also normal data, okay? Data means it is of two types, address and the actual data, right? Now, in some architectures, we have separate wires for carrying the address data and the normal data. In some other architectures, we have the same, we use same set of lines, same set of wires to carry both, okay? And there are advantages and disadvantages in each structure, okay? In each architecture. Right? So that is what is data and address bus concepts. Later we will see all these things with the diagrams also. This is the first class. We will see what is there in the syllabus. Means it is like what we are going to learn throughout this course, okay? Next, embedded processors and their types. Embedded processors. We have seen a microcontroller with certain processor, Arduino. All of you are familiar with Arduino. It is, if you look at if you remember the Arduino board, somewhere in the Arduino board we have microcontroller, right? And it is not the only type of microcontroller. We have different types of microcontrollers, vary from small size to large size. Size in the sense, I'm not talking about the physical size, okay? The sophistication that is present within the microcontroller. Like there are 16-bit microcontrollers, 8-bit microcontrollers, 32-bit microcontrollers. Not only size like 16-bit or 32-bit, there are other criteria also, like memory. What is the amount of RAM present in this microcontroller, that microcontroller, and so on, right? Next one is overview of design process of embedded systems. Means how we design embedded systems. If you want to design embedded systems, now what you do is, now you don't right away jump into the design. Before you start the design, you sit down and make a plan. Now, what are the requirements? To meet these requirements, what hardware is needed, in what way that hardware is to be connected, and that is hardware part. And there is a software part also. Embedded system is not just hardware, it also has software, okay? And we have to think about software also. Software means the program, okay? Next, programming languages and tools for embedded system. And there are many languages which are in use for programming the embedded systems or microcontrollers, okay? For example, C is very widely used or more popular language, and these days we have Java, and we have Python also, okay? And we talk about different languages in use for programming the microcontroller. So This is unit 1. In this unit 1, we talk about these many things. Next, unit 2. Coming to the unit 2, in the unit 2, we will see the embedded processor architecture. Embedded processor means embedded microcontroller or microcontroller. Microcontroller is not just processor. Microcontroller is equal to processor plus microcontroller is equal to processor plus other peripherals. Okay, although those peripherals are their capability is very less. Okay, microprocessor plus peripherals called microcontroller. Right now, how you architect that microcontroller, that is about this unit 2. In the unit 2, we will talk about CISC and RISC design philosophy. All the processors that exist today can be classified mainly into these two categories, CISC and RISC. CISC stands for complex instruction set computer, whereas RISC is for reduced instruction set computer. This classification is based on the number of instructions that are supported by that microprocessor. Okay, in RISC processors, we have few instructions compared to CISC processor. CISC support large number of instructions, whereas RISC supports only few instructions. Okay, later we'll talk much about these differences. Next, Von Neumann and hardware architecture. Von Neumann and hardware architecture. This is about the data bus and address bus. If you take data bus and address bus as the criteria or the speed and so on, then we have these two classifications. One is Von Neumann, other one is hardware architecture, right? Next one is introduction to ARM architecture. Okay, ARM architecture. ARM is a very popular microcontroller that is used. It is very powerful microcontroller that is used widely in almost many microcontrollers. Whenever high efficiency embedded system is the demand, there we use this ARM microcontrollers. ARM stands for Advanced RISC Mission. Advanced RISC Mission. It is a company which generates or develops architecture for the microcontroller. It won't build any microcontroller. It won't manufacture any microcontroller. It develops architecture. Means it develops the architecture on the paper or in software. It won't fabricate any microcontroller that we use in PCBs. Are you getting? Next one is, these are the varieties of these are the subfamilies. Cortex M series means Cortex M is a ARM microcontroller. It is one subfamily having certain features. We have other varieties like Cortex M, Cortex R, and so on, so on. These different things we will study when we talk about these topics. Okay, and TM4C block diagram. These are the two popular series, TM4C 123X, TM4C 129X. Okay, these are the popular microcontrollers. These are the families, popular families of microcontrollers. And black diagram, TM4C black diagram. Black diagram means we see what is the amount of RAM being used in that microcontroller, what are the communication peripherals present in that microcontroller, how they are connected, what is the clock frequency. All these things are mentioned in the block diagram. We will study that block diagram. Okay, and like addressing modes and instruction set basics means we talk about addressing modes and also instruction sets. Instruction set means like move, add. You are aware of instructions in assembly language. Now, what are the instructions supported by this family of microcontrollers? With this, we will be completing this unit 2. Next, unit 3. In the unit 3 is entitled, unit 3 is titled Overview of Microcontrollers and Embedded Systems. Here we take the overview of microcontrollers and embedded systems. Microcontroller is one main unit of embedded system. Microcontroller alone won't become embedded system. Microcontroller plus peripherals required to accomplish the required task, that becomes the embedded system. Microcontroller alone is not the embedded system. Okay, and here we talk about the hardware parts and the building blocks. Building blocks means what are the necessary components that are combined together, that are put together, forms embedded systems. Those components we will talk here in the unit 3. And the processor selection. See, there is no a single or only one type of processor for building the embedded system. There are tens of different processors or hundreds of processors. You have to correctly select, right? So let's resume the session. In the unit 3, that's what we will do. The different building blocks of embedded system and processor selection. Okay, I/O devices. These I/O devices means input and output devices. And we talk these timers and counting devices. And serial communication. Serial communication means what? If you want to establish communication between your microcontroller or your embedded system with some other computer or some other embedded system, then how it can be done? That is what is serial communication. There are many protocols in use. We can use any of them to establish the communication between the microcontrollers or microcontroller or embedded system to your computer. Means serial communication is essentially transferring data from one embedded system to another. It can be computer or another embedded system. Okay, and here we also talk about different phases of embedded system. See, embedded system design and development doesn't happen in one step. It takes several steps. In the first step, we make the plan. In the second step, we go and buy all the components. In the third step, we start doing things. In the fourth step, when everything is being done, we put it to test. When the test yields correct results, then only we produce it in large scale. Okay, there are various steps involved in the design and development of embedded systems that we will see here. There are standard models. We'll talk about those models when we take up this topic in the unit 3. Okay. Next is use of target system or its emulator or in-circuit emulator. Emulator is a virtual lab. Okay. Now, if you how do you test? Let's say normally we make one hardware, let's say oscillator circuit. How do you test your oscillator circuit in the lab? You apply the power supply, you hook up the oscilloscope probes to the output of the oscillator and see if you are getting the waveforms on the screen. If you are getting correct waveforms, then your oscillator is working fine. Otherwise, there is something wrong in the oscillator and you will troubleshoot it. That's what we normally do. Okay. Whereas in-circuit emulator is like a virtual software. The same thing, what all we are doing in the hardware lab for testing purpose. Okay, we can do many things in the virtual software, that is called emulator. It is not only software, it is a hardware too, that we will talk about in the unit 3. Okay, and other considerations like other metrics, other design metrics like low power, high performance, engineering cost, time to market. Time to market is one of the main parameter that we have to keep in mind. for in the embedded design and development in the embedded market. Okay, means our main goal is to design the embedded system with all the best features, that too in less time, so that we can make it available to the customers. They can buy your product and you can make money, lots of money. That is time to market. That is about unit 3. In the unit 4, the name of the unit 4 is microcontroller fundamentals and basic programming. So far we have talked about different things like what is different peripherals and so on, not actually how to program the microcontroller. Okay, we have talked about how to design it, what are the requirements, this and that, and so on. In the unit 4, we will see the programming itself. Means you have certain task in your mind. To realize the task, to realize that functionality, how the programming should be. Okay, that is the means we talk about the programming knowledge in unit 4. We will gain the knowledge that is needed to program the embedded microcontroller. In this unit 4, we will see IO pin multiplexing. IO pin multiplexing means microcontrollers have certain pins, like if it is a small microcontroller, it may have 8 pins or 10 pins, or if it is a big microcontroller, it may have as many as 100 pins or 120 pins, like that. Okay, it is not like a single pin is used for a single pin is dedicated for a single functionality or particular functionality. No, it is not true in general. Okay, many pins, they are used for various purpose. Okay, means same pin can be used as input pin or output pin. Same pin is one of the pin in I2C communication or S2 or USB communication. Same pin can be used for multiple purpose. That is the IO pin multiplexing. Multiplexing means the same pin can be used for different purpose. That is what is IO pin multiplexing. And pull up and pull down register, it is not registers, it is a spelling mistake. Of course registers are true, of course it is registers. Okay, and we have certain registers, these are control registers. By writing 1 or 0, you can enable or disable resistors, which are pull up resistors and pull down resistors, which are present within the microcontroller. Okay, we will see what is that pull up resistor and pull down resistor. You have some idea of these resistors in your microprocessor subject. Okay, next, GPIO control. GPIO means general purpose input output, and by writing 1, you can set any pin to input pin. By writing 0, you can set one pin or set of pins to output pins. It depends on your requirement. Okay, that is what is GPIO control. It is not just like only this, there is a lot to it that we will see when we talk about this GPIO control. Next, memory mapped peripherals, programming system registers, watchdog timer, programming system registers. System registers means in every microcontroller we have registers. By writing ones or zeros into those registers, we can have different functionalities. Okay, watchdog timer, it is a reset mechanism. Okay, if there is because of some issues, if the microcontroller stucks and it won't run the program, then what happens is this watchdog timer hardware resets the microcontroller. Okay, that is the thing. Next, need of low power embedded systems. We always look for embedded systems which consume little power, because most of the time they are hanging somewhere at the roof of the room or somewhere in the remote place, and where the power, those devices are not generally access to the mains grid, so they have to use little power supply. We always look for embedded system which consumes little power, right? That is one of the main goal in designing embedded systems. System clocks. System clocks means every microcontroller, for every microcontroller has some clock source. Okay, should have some clock source. Here we have 6 different clock sources in our microcontrollers. In the our microcontrollers, we will understand that it is not that easy thing. It is a little complex clock system. We will see this at that point. Next, hibernation modules. Hibernation modules means when microcontroller doesn't have much to do, then it goes into hibernation, something like a sleep state, where it usually utilizes minimum power. That is what is hibernation. Next, other things like interrupt vector table, and these things you already know. And these are the powerful things like RTC, real-time clock, and pulse width modulation, quadrature encoder interface. Okay, pulse width modulation is very powerful tool. In earlier microcontrollers, this feature was absent. This hardware was absent in the earlier microcontrollers, whereas today it is a very common hardware. It is hardware present in almost all microcontrollers. Okay, today this advanced microcontrollers or even basic microcontroller that is manufactured today do contain this PWM hardware, right? So these are the things that we will see in the unit 4. Unit 4 is primarily focuses on the programming. If you want to program the microcontroller, you should also know what are the available hardware. Okay, then only you can program the microcontroller to its best, right? Next, unit 5. The unit 5 is about embedded communication protocols and Internet of Things. Communication protocols, communication means how to transfer the data from your embedded system to another embedded system or to the computer for further processing or for storing. Okay, that can happen through these protocols: UART, Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter, Serial Peripheral Interface. This is another one. This is another one, I2C, USB, and some other. Okay, so you can establish communication between two embedded units through one of these or some of these or combination of these protocols that we will see in unit 5. And there are 2 case studies that we do in this unit 5. One case study is about sensors, the sensor interface with this ARM microcontroller. The second case study is smart plug. Smart plug means it is much like your plug, but it is its functionality is smart in the sense you don't go to the plug physically and turn on the plug or turn off it. Let's say you have a plug and you have to go near to the plug and you have to extend your hand and turn on the switch and turn off the switch. Then only the light which is connected to that plug will go on or off. That is the function of normal plug. Unlike the normal plug, smart plug works like this. You don't need to go to the plug. From the remote place you can control the smart plug. Let's say a fan or refrigerator or AC is connected to the plug, which is called smart plug, through some external hardware, IoT or something like that, Wi-Fi. Now let's say smart plug is installed in your home and you are somewhere else, let's say in USA. Still you can turn on your AC or turn off your AC by pushing some button in your smartphone. Okay, it is called smart plug. So these 2 case studies we will do in the unit 5. With this we will complete the syllabus. So this is the topics that we will be learning in this course. Okay, I think it's enough for today. In the next class onwards, from the next class we will start with the actual syllabus, and this course also accompanies the lab, which is divided into 2 parts. The first part